Group 1, so let's find out how your parents will view your future spouse. Now, if you're not close with your parents, or if you were raised by a different sort of caregiver, like maybe you were raised by your grandmother and your grandfather, something like that, you could still definitely apply this reading to them. But I'm just going to say parents just because that rolls off the tongue a little bit easier than caregiver. All right, Group 1, how will your parents view your future spouse? Or the same thing, like if you were raised by a single mother, then this would just be your mom's opinion. You know what I mean? Like whoever is relevant to you. All right, Group 1. How will your parents view your future spouse? And a huge thank you to the subscriber who suggested this topic. It's been suggested quite a lot, so I'm just finally getting around to doing it. I think let's do uprights. Let's do uprights today. I'm in that kind of vibe. All right, we're starting off here with the Page of Wands, and then, ooh, the Emperor as well. Let's see what else we get here. We've got the Six of Swords. I'm gonna get, I think, one more tarot card. Oh, we've got the Ace of Cups. Okay. And then with the Ace of Cups, there was the Queen of Swords, but she was in reverse. And I know I said all uprights, but I do actually think that's quite significant. So the message that I'm getting with this is that your parents will feel like your future spouse brings out a softer side to you. And it's not that I think that you're a closed off person or, you know, that you're unemotional or something like that. It's just coming through that maybe you've been hurt before in the past, maybe you've had your fair share of heartbreak, or maybe you're just not necessarily like super lovey-dovey, affectionate, or you are, you know, just maybe a little bit more withdrawn during this time, like maybe you weren't looking for love when you met your future spouse, or, you know, again, maybe just having your heart broken, or, you know, just having some bad experiences. You know, even with friends, you know, can create trust issues and things like that. So, or even if you just have to be really tough, you know, in your workplace, like maybe you work at a job where you just have to keep your emotions in check. I know I felt that way when I worked as a substance abuse counselor. I'm tripping up over my words a little bit, so I've been working all day, so bear with me here. I know that I felt that way when I worked as a counselor, that I had to compartmentalize a little bit and have this mental separation between me and the client just for my own mental sanity. And so I didn't get overly invested, and I didn't, you know, project certain things onto clients and things like that. So yeah, your parents feel like your future spouse brings out a softer side to you. And I think it's quite nice, you know, it's like, especially if you've been having a hard time, or if that's the place that you're in when you meet your future spouse, I think that your parents are going to like seeing you in a lighter, more playful kind of attitude. And so that is going to mean that they take a liking to your future spouse because they see the positive, the positive effect that you're having. Oh, wow, sorry. I was like, is that thunder? But I think it's just the neighbor. They're like rolling their trash bins. Hopefully you didn't hear that noise. But yeah, so I think they're just really going to like this side to you. You know, it's like you're finally able to be in your feminine energy, and your gender really doesn't matter. It's just that softer side to you. You know, you can let your walls down and feel safe to do so. And I also think here with the Emperor, this could be signifying that your future spouse is in a great place financially, and your parents feel like, on a practical note, this is a good choice for you, in the sense that this person is stable, they're secure, they have long-term goals, they have a plan for themselves. This isn't someone who's going to be like mooching off of you, or, you know, someone who is lazy, someone who's always going to be out of work, you know, or between jobs, you know. No one wants that for their kid. You know, you don't want, you know, no matter how old you are, like, no one wants to see their child with someone who is taking advantage of them financially, or someone who just can't hold down a job, or someone who doesn't even pull their weight around the house, you know. And so I feel like your parents really respect that this is an equitable relationship, and that, you know, your future spouse is bringing something to the table here. So it's nice, you know, like there is, I think, a process too, in terms of them getting to know your future spouse. I feel like your future spouse is quite comedic, and so, you know, when they're nervous, they make a lot of jokes. It's reminding me of Chandler on Friends. So it may take a minute for your parents to get used to your future spouse's sense of humor, and it may take a minute for them to kind of figure out when this person is joking or not. Now, this could be because they're from a different cultural background, so think about it, like British humor is different than American humor, you know, something like that. Or this could also be referring to maybe even just the age difference, you know, like between your future spouse and your parents, you know. Yeah, so there just may be, you know, a little bit of a learning curve in terms of, you know, just getting to know each other. And yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is all that I'm getting so far. Let's use the cat meme tarot and see what else. I don't have like a specific plan for this reading. I just wanted to film, so we're just kind of going with this organically. I've got some cards over here, and we'll just, you know, see how we feel. All right, anything else, Spirit, about this meeting with the parents? How will the parents feel about Group 1's future spouse? Group 1's future spouse. They definitely feel like this person is a step up from whoever you were seeing before. And then we also have Judgment here. This could also, with the Six of Swords, indicate a time of being single for a while as well. So either you've been single for a while and your parents are like, you know, kind of shocked, you know, that you're in this like long-term thing, or you know, this could again represent just your future spouse being a real step up, you know, from what you've been encountering before. Now with this Judgment card, I really love the way it's depicted here, because it really is sort of, it's just really kind of illustrating that your future spouse represents you recognizing your self-worth and expecting more from people, and then the universe delivering you someone who is, you know, at that level of expectation, someone who is meeting this new standard, because you deserve someone who treats you well. I mean, you really, really do. And so with this Judgment card, I do think, again, there's like this nervousness that comes from your future spouse, which I think is really understandable, very normal. You know, it's kind of nerve-wracking meeting someone's parents. So I do think that you may kind of get around your future spouse and kind of look at them sideways, like, why are you acting weird? Like, why are you, you know, like, just calm down. It's okay. Like, they, you know, I feel like you're going to have to reassure your future spouse that, like, it's okay. You can just be yourself. They're going to love you. Because it does feel quite nerve-wracking. Like, your future spouse's energy is, like, really shaky in this reading. Like, I really feel like they're going to be so nervous, really just wanting to make a good first impression. And I'll be quite honest with you, for some of you, it could be because there is a difference in terms of their background. So, for example, you know, if you are dating someone who is a different race or ethnicity than you, your future spouse may be just nervous about that. You know, they may be like, are your parents going to be weird about this? Are they going to be accepting of this? You know, because, I mean, it's unfortunate, but like racism does still exist, right? So, you know, that could be, or it could even be like a difference in religion, like, oh, you know, I know your parents are Catholic, but, you know, something like that. There's some other, I'm just picking up, there's like some sort of extenuating thing here. Like there's some sort of external factor at play here. Because there's like a normal level of nervousness, which is to be expected, but it feels like there's some kind of extra something, you know, like there's some other wrench in the gears here. And again, just to reiterate, like your parents are going to love your future spouse and appreciate a lot of their qualities, but I just feel like your future spouse is going into this meeting, going into this situation, being so nervous. And so, you know, just as a tip for you, like if you can remember this reading in the future, just be mindful of that, you know, give them some reassurance. You know, I just feel like they need it. They need a little bit of that. And it could also be some past insecurity, you know, maybe your future spouse dated someone in the past and their parents couldn't stand them and it was a real problem in the relationship. And I think it's because at the time that your future spouse is going to be meeting your parents, they are very serious about you. And they really have it in their mind that you're the one, you know, so they're not, you know, halfway about you. Like they are very certain. And so they're looking at your parents like, these are my future in-laws. Like I want to have a good relationship with them. I don't want it to negatively impact, you know, my future marriage. So yeah, I think either this is signifying that you wait a while to introduce, you know, your parents to your future spouse, or your future spouse just knows you're the one very early in the relationship. Okay, let's get some more information here. Okay, we have Temperance. This card has actually come out twice. When I was shuffling originally, it was behind this one, but I just felt called to take this, and now it's coming out a second time. Sometimes Spirit will do that. You know, Spirit will catch me and be like, no, it was really both cards. So I got you. I heard you. With Temperance here, this is really making me think, quite honestly, that your future spouse may drink a little bit, a little liquid courage, or after they meet your parents, they're like, babe, I need a drink. Like, I need something to take the edge off because that was something. That's why I really feel like there's something else at play that's, you know, adding to that anxiety. Like, even if there's like an age difference between you and your future spouse, I could see that being something that makes them nervous. It's just some factor that they can't really control. You know, it's just there, and either your parents are going to accept it or not, you know. So if it's their age, their skin color, their religion, you know, their cultural background, like whatever, you know, it just is what it is. This could even look like someone being in the military and being nervous that you know, your parents aren't going to want their child to marry someone in the military because, you know, people in the military sometimes get restationed and they have to move, or they go out on deployment, things like that. So it's something that they can't really change. Like, you can't just go and get out of the military anytime you want, right? Like, military, like, owns you for a certain period of time depending upon, you know, your contract, whatever you signed up for. So it's something like that, something they can't control. Okay, I feel like I've made that point very clear, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Let's look at, why don't we get some Zodiac cards? Now, I will say, your parents may be a great judge of character, and we may get your future spouse's actual, like, sun sign or rising sign, but and you can look at that as confirmation. Like, if you see the King of Pentacles a lot and you figure your future spouse is going to be an earth sign, you can take that as confirmation, something like that. But this is going to be more about how are your parents perceiving your future spouse, you know, during those first couple of encounters. Let's do that. I think that makes a little bit more sense. Okay. Group 1, future spouse, group 1. Okay, we've got Capricorn. That's funny because I was just talking about Earth sign energy and now we have Capricorn. I'm not surprised to see that though, because you got the Emperor. And even though, you know, Emperor is associated with Aries, I do tend to associate it also with Earth sign energy, especially Capricorn, because I think of the Emperor as being someone who's very practical, someone who's very hardworking, and also someone who is quite fixed. You know, with the Emperor energy, this is someone who can be just set in their ways, you know, like they're the boss, they want things done a certain way, they have a certain standard, and you know, they're used to being in control. They're used to being the one that everyone else looks up to. And, you know, it's a lot of responsibility, but they carry it really well. And so your parents may view your future spouse as like someone who is very responsible, someone who's very hardworking, someone who's dependable, reliable, but also maybe someone who works too much or someone who's a bit inflexible. You know, someone who likes to take charge or, you know, likes things, again, done a certain way. They may also see your future spouse as someone who's very disciplined in terms of maybe like health or fitness, things like that. You know, they may pick that up based upon like your future spouse's body type, or, you know, like if you all are sitting down and eating dinner together, you know, your future spouse may be mindful of like, you know, I could see that being a thing, like if your future spouse invited your parents over for dinner and then your future spouse cooked a bunch of healthy food or like health conscious foods, you know, that would give them a tip, right, into like the type of person your future spouse is. But yeah, and they may also, it's kind of funny because there's like this dual energy coming forward, right? Like we have a little bit of fire sign energy with the joking around and the nervousness, and like when they're nervous they tell a lot of jokes and stuff like that, but then there's the other side to them that can seem a bit serious and reserved, you know, in terms of their work life. So I do think, you know, your future spouse, you know, they're not, every time we talk about someone, they're gonna be dynamic, right? Like we're not talking about a cookie cutter, you know, person on a, you know, a character on a page. We're talking about a real life human being here. So there's going to be different sides. And so it does seem like your parents pick up on that. Okay. Let's see here. I want to get maybe one or two more signs. Let's just see what comes out. Okay, and we've got Libra here. I feel like the Libra energy would likely come out a little bit later. And I think this would be when your future spouse gets over that initial fear. Like whatever it is that they're worried is going to just automatically make your parents not like them. Like once they get over that and they see that your parents have either accepted that thing or have never cared about it to begin with, you know, once they have moved past that, I feel like then your future spouse is going to settle and be just more authentically themselves because they're going to feel more comfortable around your parents. And so that's going to bring out that Libra energy, which is very charming, charismatic. And I also feel like there's a sense of your future spouse being someone who is like an upstanding guy or an upstanding woman, you know, just someone who is honest, fair, loyal, to the point, pragmatic, you know, this is me, take it or leave it, and this is what I stand for, and this is what I believe in, and just someone who lives by a certain moral code, which I think is very reassuring to your parents because they think, okay, this is going to be someone who is loyal, someone who is going to be honest, and, you know, if there were problems, you know, when they got married later on, this is someone who would want to go to counseling, not someone who's going to run out and cheat, you know, like this is going to be someone who is, again, like an upstanding person. Yeah. And I also feel like the Libra hints at what we were talking about before with the scales, that there's two kind of, you know, sides to your future spouse that they can play into. There's like work mode them, which is like that Capricorn energy, but then there's also the playful side that, you know, they kind of are with you. So it's like they become kind of like a comedian around you, and you become very soft and like loving and affectionate around them. So that's sort of the sides that you two bring out in each other that your parents will see. Let's see. And again, I do feel like there is an energy here. Your future spouse is a bit uptight in the sense that they are type A. Like they are a little bit of a perfectionist at times. They're very hardworking. They just like things done a certain way, and they're, you know, a scheduled person, hardworking person. And sometimes that can lead to them being a bit controlling, not over you, but just controlled in the sense of having anxiety about the future and wanting a guaranteed outcome. This person's a planner. So like I said, you know, they're going to look at your relationship and immediately start planning for the future and having goals in mind, because everything this person does is goal oriented. This person doesn't waste time on things that aren't building towards their future and their long-term goals. So the fact that they're meeting your parents, you know, is confirmation to you that they really do see a future with you. You know, they're not just playing you or saying it, like they really, really are quite serious. It reminds, this is so terrible. I don't know like why all of these celebrity examples have been popping up lately for me when I'm doing tarot readings, but this is so awful. But I just remember this clip I saw where, Kim Kardashian and Kanye were arguing, and Kim had said something, and she said, "I thought you were joking." And he said, "I don't joke, I don't play. Everything I say is serious." Like that was his response to her. And it's so ridiculous because he jokes around just like anybody else does. So I think that there is, that just came up, but I think that there is kind of this interesting dynamic sometimes with your future spouse where they do, I think that's what it is. Like sometimes it's hard to get their sense of humor. That may be like, again, we were talking about a learning curve between your parents and your future spouse. I feel like you get your future spouse's sense of humor very easily, but with your parents, it's your future spouse maybe has like a deadpan kind of humor, maybe like April Ludgate, or again, like maybe like a British sense of humor where it's like, are you joking? Are you being serious right now? Like, I don't know, there's just something there. It just keeps coming up where, yeah, it's maybe like a little bit difficult to tell when they're joking and when they're being serious. Okay, I feel like I was gonna say, oh, of course, with Libra energy, your future spouse is likely very attractive. They're likely just physically very attractive, especially because now I'm seeing Taurus as the bottom of the deck. So I definitely feel like your future spouse is someone who is just well put together. You know, they smell good, they take care of themselves, they have good hygiene. You know, not everybody does, but your future spouse, I think, is definitely going to make a good first impression just in terms of that. Like, they just look nice, they take care of themselves. And it is in a very holistic way. Like, they take care of themselves, like, their clothes are clean, they shower, things like that. But they also eat well. They also work out regularly. They would probably be someone who meditates or journals or does something for their mental health, you know. Doesn't have to be anything like super intensive, but they do something to check in with themselves. And I just think in general, like, regardless of, you know, if it's your parents or your friends or whoever you're introducing your future spouse to, they just seem like an adult. They just seem like a put together person. Yeah. I think the only thing here really is that kind of question mark thing that we were mentioning before. Like, there's something that your future spouse can't control. And again, they love control, right? But there's something that they can't control, and they are just really hoping it's not a deal breaker for your parents. So, and this could also, like, now that this could be so many things. Like, I think the obvious example would be, you know, like race or religion or something like that. But I think also it could even be like they have a child from a previous relationship, or they've been divorced before. Like, you can't control that. Like, it's already happened, you know? And that's a more obviously specific example. Like, if you know in your heart of hearts you would never be with someone who has a child from a previous relationship, then disregard that message. It may be something else, like maybe the military example, or, you know, they're from a different culture, whatever. So always take what resonates and apply it how you think it would best fit. Okay, group 1, this was your reading. I'm actually going to go ahead and film the future spouse friendship. Yeah, like, how will your friends be your future spouse? I think I'm going to go ahead and film that now. But anyway, make sure you have the notification bell turned on so you always know when I upload. Sometimes I surprise you guys, right? What else? Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell. I've already said that, so you always know when I upload. A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel thus far. A huge, huge, huge thank you if you watch the ads, or if you have donated on Venmo or tipped with the SuperThanks thing. Thank you so much. Like, you guys are so kind, so wonderful. I really appreciate it. And yeah, take care. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I know I was maybe a little bit all over the place, but been at work all day. And I don't know, I was really in the mood to film. So yeah, thank you all for spending some time with me, and I will see you in my next one. Group 2, so we're going to find out how will your parents feel about your future spouse. Now, if you were raised by, say, like your grandmother or your grandfather, you had some other caregiver who, you know, was a parent to you, then you can definitely just change this to be them. Or if you were raised by a single mother, then this will just be like your mom's opinion, you know, that kind of thing. It's just easier for me to say parents, you know, than to say caregiver or something like that. So, you know, just apply it how it resonates to you. All right, so let's find out. And a huge thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. I think we're just gonna do uprights today. We'll see. I'm still breaking in this deck, so I kind of have to be a little bit mindful about which cards I take and which ones I don't. Group 2. Okay, we have the 4 of Swords. We have the Page of Pentacles here. Got the Hermit. I'm sorry, we've got the Page of Swords. I just heard in my head a real chill dude. Like, a real chill dude. You may be asking about a woman, and that's fine. But, yeah, your future spouse is coming across as someone who's just very laid back, chill, reserved, quiet, stays to themselves, someone who Oh, yeah, someone who's so sweet with the Six of Cups, so sweet. I do feel like there is another side to them, but, you know, okay. I feel like they are either trying to present themselves in a certain way to your parents, or this is just how they are around new people in general. So this could look like someone having a rising sign. For those of you who don't know, in your birth chart, your rising sign or your ascendant is kind of like the mask that you wear when you're around people that you don't know that well. It's like your first impression, but it's not necessarily indicative of who you are truly, like your true core personality, or who you are when you're around people that you're comfortable with, or, you know, just who you truly are at your core. So yeah, it's just, you know, people's first impressions, which can often be wrong, right? So I feel like there's a side to your future spouse where they are really talkative, you know, and they are kind of, you know, just really fun and chatty and lighthearted, but I feel like, you know, either it's their rising sign is in something like Capricorn, or like Virgo, you know, something that comes across as more serious, and maybe their sun sign is in like Gemini or Leo, you know, something more playful and lighthearted, but your parents aren't getting any of that. You know, like your parents are just seeing them as someone who's quiet, sweet but serious, you know, they seem polite. It's like you would call your parents afterwards and be like, "Hey, what'd you think?" And your parents would be like, "Well, they seem nice." I mean, it's like your parents don't have a lot to go on because your future spouse just isn't really talking. Like, they will be polite, but they won't initiate conversation with your parents. They will just answer questions, but they won't say anything to further the conversation. They're just either very shy or very introverted, or they just have a rising sign that is very reserved. You know, again, like Capricorn or Virgo, something like that, where that's just how they are. They're just slow to open up to people. And it may even surprise you a little bit, like if you haven't been in a social situation with your future spouse where they're meeting new people, it may surprise you. You may look at them and be like, "Why are they acting like that? Like, why are they acting so weird or so withdrawn, you know?" But it's just how they are, you know, like they're the kind of person that just sits back and observes the room, and once they get a good read on other people, then they'll, you know, act accordingly. You know, like your future spouse is someone who really is very discerning. And so they just kind of sit back and observe, and they see how people are and how they act. They make certain judgments based on that, and then they, you know, respond accordingly. So, you know, they may take a minute, see how your parents are before they start to open up, and, you know, it may take several meetings with your parents before they start to, you know, let those walls down, or, you know, let the mask drop and they, you know, adjust themselves, because they may just, I don't know, like, again, like they're very polite, like they're not being rude about it or anything like that, but they just, I think they're also a very private person, and so, you know, they may just be a little bit hesitant about opening up about your relationship and things like that to your parents, and they're not trying to be secretive or anything like that. They just, you know, they like their business to stay their business, you know, like they just like, you know, like your parents, my parents don't need to know every little thing that we do, you know, like they don't need to be, so yeah, if you're really close with your parents, that may be a bit different for you. Your future spouse is very independent, and this is the type of person who will be like cooking up something, like they will be hard at work on some goals, and then no one will know about it at all. And then your future spouse will be like, oh, I'm publishing a novel, or, you know, like something like totally wild. And people be like, what? I didn't even know that you like wrote. I didn't even know that you were like into that. You know, like your future spouse is just like that, you know. They're always cooking up something. And I feel they're very protective, I think, also of the relationship. They are. And even like with your parents, you know, they may not necessarily share how they're not someone who talks about their feelings a lot. With you they might, but with other people, like they just I also feel like your future spouse is not one for gossip. They really aren't. Like they are very focused on maintaining peace, like within themselves and in their life and in their relationships with others. And so, yeah, I feel like they don't do or say anything to create waves. And they're the kind of person that'll just agree with you to avoid an argument, and then just go do whatever they want to do anyway. So, like, you know, if your parents are, let's just say that your parents are maybe a little bit pushy. And so, like, maybe your parents keep asking certain questions about where the relationship is going. And maybe your future spouse has already bought an engagement ring. But there's that, you know, like, they may still not share that. You know, they may still hold that back, you know, because they just feel like, you know, it's not their business. Or they may, like, your future spouse is just like very like set in their ways. Like, you know, this is with the Hermit, this is someone who has spent some time by themselves. They've done their healing, they've done their inner work, and there's, you know, they're spiritually, they feel right with God or whatever it is that they believe in. And you know, what everyone else thinks or feels about it, even if it's your parents, well, that's on them. You know, that's between them and their God, because like like they're, I don't know, it's just a very funny energy to me. But yeah. Or, you know, your parents may be like, well, when are y'all, like, so y'all are like living together already, but you're not married yet, you know, something like that. Maybe your parents say something like that, and your future spouse will be like, like, it's not really a response. You know, it's just like, well, are you? You know, like, it's just, yeah, sure. Well, do you think that's wrong? Do you think it's wrong? Like, they may just, like, flip it back on your parents. I don't know, like, they're just, you know, they are not, they're not confrontational, and they're not, but they also, again, just do whatever it is that they want. They're like, you know, they can get upset or say whatever. It is what it is. You know, it doesn't matter if it's your parents, your friends, your family, I mean, any other family members, you know. Your future spouse just really feels like your relationship with them is your relationship with them. And like any outside chatter or outside influence really has no place within the connection. So I'll be honest, like, your future spouse isn't going into it like trying to impress your parents or trying to win them over. Your future spouse is like, I am who I am. Hopefully they like me, you know, and, you know, they're gonna like sit back and just observe how you are with your parents, what the dynamic is like, and they're kind of just, they kind of, I don't mean to say they're going to offend your parents or anything like that, but it's like your parents don't really know what to make of your future spouse because they intentionally just kind of blend into the background, you know, like they're not trying to create any waves, you know, they're not trying to create any discord, but they also, to be honest, really don't want your parents involved in your business. Like, they just don't, they just think, you know, that's between, and I don't know, like, maybe you have nosy parents, I don't know, or maybe your future spouse is just that private. You know, you're gonna have to kind of apply this how it resonates, but it's kind of hard for me to tell why that is. It just is. Let's see if we can get any more information on this, like any more clarity. Your reading is so different from group 1. Okay, we got the star. Like group 1's future spouse was like really trying to make a good impression. We've got the Fool here, the Star and the Fool. I think that your parents will see over time that the love between you two is really everything any parent could pray for. You know, like the kind of love that any parent would wish for or hope for their kid. You know, like when your child is growing up, like you just hoping and praying that they find someone who loves them and takes care of them and will protect them. And even if you have a bad relationship with your parents, even if, you know, it's a contentious relationship, and maybe that's part of the problem here, is that maybe you don't have a good relationship with your parents, and that's why your future spouse is just sitting back and observing, like just like seeing the dynamics play out, and is like, okay, you know, like how do I, you know, fit into this puzzle of dysfunction, essentially. You know, that's maybe only resonating for a few of you. But even if you have a bad relationship with your parents, then you can take this as like what a parent should want for their kids. But they will see over time. They will see over time. You know, again, if you have a bad relationship with your parents, they may not like that you found someone who treats you so well, because maybe you have a narcissistic parent who benefits from you having low self-esteem, you know. That does happen. But I think regardless, if you needed some reassurance, your future spouse is really just gonna love you in the way that everyone deserves to be loved. You know, at the end of the day, I think we all know the world would be a much nicer place if everyone was with a partner who treated them well and was healthy for them, and, you know, was like a true love connection. Maybe the world wouldn't be perfect still, but maybe it would be a lot more pleasant. So yes, like you are getting the kind of love that people wish for, the kind of love that people hope for, but maybe don't always get. So yes, I feel like if you needed that reassurance, you're getting that now. But also, yeah, I really do wonder if some of you have a bad relationship with one of your parents or both of your parents, because this is quite interesting now that I'm thinking about it here. Because with the Six of Cups, see, now I'm seeing this in a different light. With the Six of Cups, I wonder if when you're around your parents, that triggers some wounds from childhood. Like that triggers some inner child wounds in you, and your future spouse is just sitting back and seeing a side to you maybe that they haven't witnessed firsthand. Like maybe you've talked about it a little bit, but they just haven't seen it play out, and maybe that breaks their heart a bit. And so maybe they hold their tongue because, you know, they don't want to add fuel to the fire and create more problems for you. But maybe afterwards they're like, babe, you know, like that is not okay. It is not okay that your parents talk to you like that, or that they favor your sibling in that way, or, you know, it's really not okay that you're the scapegoat. Like, just seeing you be like the black sheep of the family, you know, might be really hard for them. And that could also be why they're like, you know, I'll be here because you want me to be here, but to be honest, like, I don't really want to participate in this. I don't really care if your parents like me, because quite honestly, I don't really like them. I don't like how they're treating you. You deserve better than this. You know, that may be why that comes up. More specific message, like if you have a great relationship with your parents, then you can disregard that. But sometimes the messages sometimes certain messages are a little bit slower to come through, and I find that happens when we're talking about things that cut us a bit deeper. So like if you have a parent that, you know, doesn't act the way a parent should, if you had a parent that was abusive to you, or, you know, you had a traumatic childhood in some way, it would make sense that that message would be slower to come through, because that cuts really, really deep. You know, like, I won't even get into it, but you can imagine, right? Okay. All right. I hate to end it on that kind of note, but wait. We still have another deck to use. I'm so sorry, group 2. I think I told the other group this. I don't think I mentioned it to you, but it's nighttime when I'm filming this. I was at work all day, came home, you know, relaxed for a little while, and then I just really wanted to film. So sometimes when I film late in the evenings like this, my brain is a little bit scattered, so I apologize. These messages here are going to be showing how your parents perceive your future spouse, rather than figuring out like their sun sign, just because I feel like that will be more helpful. However, like maybe if you get the King of Cups in a ton of love readings and you're convinced that your future spouse is a water sign, and we get Scorpio, you know, that could be confirmation for you that, like, yes, your future spouse is going to be a Scorpio, you know. So just take what resonates, but we're looking more at how your parents will perceive your future spouse. Okay. And I think I'll get maybe 2 to 3 signs. Okay, we've got Aquarius, so we have a air sign coming out. This honestly makes a lot of sense given what we've seen so far, because Aquarius energy can kind of be quite unique and different, and it does seem like your parents are looking at your future spouse and being like, they're a little bit odd, they're a little bit different, or there's something unexpected about your future spouse. Or, you know, Aquarius energy is hard to pin down because Aquarius people are unique in the hold on, let me phrase this the right way. Aquarius people are the same in that each Aquarian individual is very unique and different. Like, that's what unites Aquarius people, is that they're weird in a good way. Like, I mean that in the best possible way, but they tend to be like an odd character. So like you can meet, you know, 2 Aquarius people, and even though they share the same sign, what makes them similar is the fact that they are so different from the norm. So it's like a paradox a little bit. I hope I'm making it clear. Aquarius has like so many positive traits to it, so many positive traits, but I think within the context of this reading, it's really just signifying that your parents are finding it difficult to read your future spouse. They're finding it difficult to put them in a neat little label, you know, so your future spouse isn't coming across as, you know, like the girl or boy next door, or like the workaholic or something like it's hard for them to pin a certain label onto your future spouse. Okay, let's see what else we can get here. Aquarius energy too. Aquarius people are very smart, so they may be picking that up, that your future spouse does seem quite, you know, well-spoken, intelligent. Taurus, I feel like the Taurus card here is pointing more towards their physical appearance. So this could be signifying that your future spouse is someone who has a lot of like muscles, like they're very fit or very toned. Or if you're talking about a woman, this could be a very like feminine shape, like an hourglass shape. Taurus is also just in general like very attractive energy because of the influence of Venus. Also with Taurus, I think of someone just seeming very like solid, and that would make sense because we're talking about your future spouse being very reserved and kind of just sitting back and observing. you interact with your parents, and so they kind of just seem kind of like a rock. You know, like they're not, they are kind of like a bit of a wall. Like when your parents are trying to talk to your future spouse, again, like they're not being very responsive. They're not giving your parents a lot of information or a lot to work with, essentially. So, you know, Taurus is fixed earth, so it's kind of making me think of being immovable. Like your parents may keep trying to pull your future spouse into the conversation, and your future spouse is just not really, you know, like interacting with them that much. Again, still being very polite, but just not giving them a lot. And it may be because your parents are being mean to you. It may be because, you know, they're just very private. So let's see. And to be clear, like, I kind of feel like if you know that you have a bad relationship with your parents or one of your parents, and you're watching this, I feel like your future spouse is the kind of person, I'm sorry, I just dropped so many cards. Your future spouse is the kind of person to where they let you fight your own battles. And if you look to them, they're very intuitive. If you look to them and you gave them a look like, I need you to jump in and defend me, then they would do so. But they are the type of person to follow your lead. So even if this is a man, it's not the kind of man who's going to jump up and be like, I have to defend her honor or something. Like, you know, they're not like that. They're like real laid back, you know, they're just observing, and if they see that you look like you need help, then they will jump in. But otherwise, like, they respect they respect your ability to stand up for yourself. And they don't see you as someone who's very strong and someone who's very powerful. And they don't look at you like you're this weak person who needs defending. You know, like, they're protective over you and they're protective over the relationship, but they don't see you as someone who is incapable of taking care of themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a chauvinistic energy if we're talking about a man. Yeah, so I think that's actually, like, quite healthy, you know? Like, they just kind of follow your cue on that. They kind of follow your lead on that. And you may have a conversation with them before, like, hey, just a heads up, this is how my parents are. I just want to keep the peace, so let's just get through it and, you know, just ignore them when they're acting the way that they're acting. You know, you may have that conversation with them before you even get into it. So just wanted to clarify that. And then we have Scorpio, because of course it was going to come out. So we have Scorpio. This definitely speaks to their privacy. This speaks to their privacy. And you also, like, I just want to point out that you have here 3 fixed signs. Like, you have 3 fixed signs. So your future spouse, in case you were confused, they are set in their ways. They are not moving. Your parents could try all night long, and your future spouse isn't going to tell them anything they don't want them to know. They're not gonna break, you know? Like, if there's certain things that you and your future spouse have decided between you two that is just private, your parents could grill them all night long, and your future spouse ain't saying nothing. Like, they are just not giving it up. You know, like, they are just, you know, they are who they are, and they don't, they don't pretend to be anything otherwise, you know, like, you can take it or leave it. And they definitely, are true to themselves. And I think that that's part of why they're like, they do like to sit back and observe, and they do like to be discerning, because it's like, how much of myself do I share and how much of myself do I just keep? And that's how they are, I think, just in general in their life. Yeah, okay. I think if anything, know this. This is going to be such a loyal person. Such a loyal person. Alright, so group 2, this was your reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it brought you some clarity on who your future spouse is. Or it was just fun. So please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and then you will always know when I upload. What else? A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel thus far. If you've been watching the ads, if you've been tipping with the SuperThanks jar, if you've been donating on Venmo, or just a regular watcher, subscriber, thank you. I appreciate it so much. I also love to read your comments, so don't think that even if I just reply, thanks for watching, I have read it. Like, I promise I have read it. That's like the whole point of doing this, is to have an interactive experience with you guys. So yeah, I do really enjoy reading your comments. Sometimes it takes me a while to catch up on comments, but I definitely appreciate it. So thank you all for that as well. And thank you all for spending some time with me, and I will see you all in my next one. I hope you have the best week. Hey Pile 3, so today we're going to find out, how will your parents feel about your future spouse? Now, if you were raised by someone else, say like your grandmother, or maybe you were raised by a single mother, that kind of thing, you can just change it. It's just easier for me to say parents rather than caregiver. So, you know, just apply it how it resonates. If the message isn't for you, it's not for you. Okay. I think we're gonna do all uprights because I think that's what I did for the other groups. Let's see. And a big thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. So we're starting off here with the 4 of Cups. We've got the Death card. We've got the Page of Cups here. Okay, given how fast these cards are coming out, I do feel like your parents make a very fast impression. So I don't know if you just have parents who are quick to make a judgment, but they definitely form kind of a snap opinion of your future spouse, okay? I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit of a journey here. It's a little bit of a journey. I do think that your parents, or maybe just one of your parents, preemptively makes some assumptions about your future spouse. Now, this may have absolutely nothing to do with your future spouse. This could be a situation where you typically date a certain type of person, and maybe your parents are like, well, we didn't like her last 3 boyfriends, or we didn't like his last 2 girlfriends, so we're probably not gonna like this one. You know what I mean? Like, they may just be in this mindset of, we don't ever like anyone that they date, you know? Or this could be a thing where, you know, your future spouse and your parents just get off on the wrong foot. You know, there's some sort of misunderstanding, but there's a transformation that occurs here. Honestly, I don't know if there's a weird dynamic between you and your parents, but it doesn't really feel like to me that it's anything that your future spouse is doing wrong. With the 4 of Cups here, I feel like your future spouse is kind of like this cup here. Like, they keep trying and trying and trying, and for whatever reason, like, your parents are just not recognizing the effort that they're putting in. And with the Death card here, it's a transformation. And I say that because we also have the Page of Cups to the 10 of Cups. So it's like, they are not feeling your future spouse at all in the beginning, but then there's something that occurs, or maybe it's just the passage of time itself and getting to know your future spouse as a person, that it's all love with the Ten of Cups, you know? It may be a situation where, you know, it doesn't really, maybe there's not really movement in improving the relationship until you have children and they see what an amazing father or amazing mother your future spouse is, and your parents realizing that, you know, if they want to be a part of their grandkids' lives, you know, and they want to have this family, this cohesive family dynamic, they need to give your future spouse a chance. I could see that being a thing. Or it could just be that your future spouse showing that they're serious about you and that they are committed to you and that they are loyal and that they do have these long-term plans with you, such as starting a family, that wins your parents over. It's going to vary a lot depending upon your relationship with your parents, right? Because some of you may be watching this out of curiosity and not really care what your parents think about your future spouse because you don't have a good relationship with them, you know? Or maybe you have, you know, a father who was in and out of your life or a mom who was in and out of your life. So, you know, always take it as it resonates. But yeah, there's definitely a journey here. I'm gonna get some more tarot cards because I want to see if we can just get some more information on like why this is. Why is there this dynamic playing out? We've got the Five of Pentacles. So maybe that's partially the concern here with your parents, is that they think that your future spouse isn't going to be able to financially provide for you. Or maybe you're quite wealthy yourself and your parents are worried that your future spouse is in it for the wrong reasons. It's kind of reminding me of the dynamic on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, if you've ever seen that show. Candy's mom gave Todd such a hard time. They ended up getting married anyway, but she gave him such a hard time about, you know, basically saying that he was there for as a meal ticket, you know. Okay, and we've got the Star card. I'm gonna have to cover this up for YouTube just to make YouTube happy here. Don't laugh at me, y'all. Okay. Yeah, it seems like your parents are being so unfair to your future spouse. Like, I don't know if your future spouse is between jobs, or they have a job where maybe they have a career that's non-traditional, because with the Star card here, I mean, they have created a lot for themselves. I mean, they are someone who is self-made, someone who has really built up, just really built themselves up to a place not only of stability, but also of recognition. Like, they are someone that other people look up to, someone that other people would aspire to be, someone who has built themselves, again, like from scratch. So I don't know, like maybe you come from a family where they kind of look down on new money or something like that. That could also be a possibility. Or maybe your parents just make snap judgments like, oh, if that person is an artist, or if that person does something, again, like non-traditional, like being a YouTuber or something like that, they may make a snap judgment and say, oh, well, that's not sustainable. You can't make a living off of that, you know, just kind of. Or maybe your future spouse didn't go to college, but they have their own business, you know, maybe your parents look down on that. I don't know, there's just something there about, even though your future spouse is successful or is on the precipice of success, your parents are still looking at them like, you know, they haven't really made much of themselves at all. Yeah. Because even if you are watching this and you're a really wealthy person and you resonate more with the message that, you know, your parents are thinking your future spouse is just there for the money, even going back again to that Real Housewives of Atlanta example, Todd had a lot of plans. Like, he had a real work ethic and ambition to him. Just as a viewer, I could see that he wasn't just depending upon Candy's money. Like, he had his own things going. And so, yeah, I feel like even still, you know, your future spouse is either very successful or on their way to being very successful. Yeah, the Three of Swords, okay. And it may, again, like, this may be the energy of your exes coming through, where your parents are just concerned that, you know, history is going to repeat itself, and, you know, you're with someone who's going to treat you poorly, someone who isn't going to be able to give you stability or security, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's definitely a process. I'm not going to lie to you. It's definitely a process. Okay, once your parents get to know your future spouse, how will they feel about them? We kind of already have that answer with the Ten of Cups, but let's just see if we can get some more clarity here. The Chariot. See what it's definitely talking about movement. It's talking about movement. It is a process here. It's a journey to getting everyone essentially to get along. And I will say also, with the Chariot representing Cancer and then having the Ten of Cups, you know, going from that Page of Cups, I definitely feel like your future spouse has such a good heart that ultimately that trumps everything else, you know? So regardless of whatever false assumptions, judgments that your parents make about your future spouse, eventually, just by who they are and how they treat you and the relationship itself, the connection between you two, the love between you two, and I'm hearing their willingness to move mountains for you, their willingness to do whatever they have to do to make this work. You know, like, they are not in any way discouraged or dissuaded from pursuing you and staying committed to you because of how your parents feel. You know, like, it really is like love is trumping everything else in this scenario. Okay, let's get a little bit of information about how your future spouse is feeling about all this. The Empress, the Empress. Yeah, either this is your future spouse or this is you, but this is how they, again, how they're showing up for you or how they want to treat you, depending upon whether you resonate more with the masculine energy or feminine energy. Obviously, the Empress is like the ultimate divine feminine figure. So if this is someone, like, if you resonate yourself with this Empress energy, then your future spouse is someone who wants to treat you like a queen and 100%, you know, is committed to giving you a lifestyle that will allow you to feel taken care of, that will allow you to feel catered to. This is, again, someone who goes above and beyond to make you happy. And, you know, if you are wanting an Empress as your future spouse, then this would be signifying that, you know, maybe it's more of a situation where your parents are worried that your future spouse is just there, you know, for the money and not for the love. But the Empress is, you know, someone who's going to make the best, most incredible mother ever, you know, and I feel like if you're wanting an Empress, you're wanting someone who's going to be the best possible mother to your children. And so if you were maybe worried about that, this is confirming that, you know, your future spouse is going to be an incredible parent. Okay, let's just see any final messages here. We've got the Hanged Man, a change in perspective. I'm telling you, like, the message just keeps coming up over and over again. So I would say, as far as this goes in terms of keeping the peace between your future spouse and your parents, I really feel like it's your parents who are being antagonistic. I feel like your future spouse is trying to take the high road, to be quite honest. But yeah, I would say the guidance here from the cards is just to have some patience, give it some time. Don't expect too much from your parents in the beginning, and I would say go with what your heart feels right and not be so focused on the approval of your parents, because you're not going to get it, you know, and time will show your parents who your future spouse is and how committed they are to you, and you two are going to create a beautiful family together. I really feel like this is a group where you do want children. Now, if that message isn't resonating, it could be talking about growing a business together, but I think for most of you, given the fact that the Empress came out and the Ten of Cups and the Page of Cups, which honestly the Page of Cups could be talking about a future child, but you know, only take that if it resonates. I think for most of you it's talking about the journey of, you know, how your parents' opinion of your future spouse will change over time. But I really feel like for most of you, if you're wanting children, take that as confirmation that you chose the right group. But yeah, don't seek approval from your parents here. Time will mend this issue. It's just a matter of time, because your future spouse really is someone who is going to fulfill you emotionally. You know, with the Ten of Cups, they are going to just make your heart feel at peace and at home. And what more could you want from a person, right? Okay. Now we're going to get some Zodiac messages. These are going to be, I think maybe we'll get 2 to 3 signs, but this is going to illustrate for us how your parents will perceive your future spouse. Now, for your group, given your messages, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to get one sign to illustrate that first impression, and then we're going to get another sign to illustrate how their view of your future spouse changes over time, because we got that message over and over again, right? So let's just do it like that. Now, this doesn't have to be your future spouse's actual, like, zodiac sign placements. It might be, but given how off your parents' first impression of your future spouse is, I wouldn't put too much stock in this first card that we're gonna get, okay? All right, so we're really talking about perception here. So first impression, future spouse, your parents' perception. Leo. So I'm a Leo myself, so don't take offense to this if you're a Leo watching this. But given the fact that your parents don't have a positive first impression of your future spouse, I'm going to focus more on the negative, debilitated side of Leo. So your parents may feel that your future spouse is a show-off. With the Star card, your future spouse may be in the public eye to some degree. This doesn't have to be anything crazy, okay? But, you know, they could have a career that's tied somehow to social media, or they're well known in their community, something like that. Or even just that they're like your parents may already know your future spouse. You know, maybe they know their parents and, you know, there's some sort of weird family dynamic going on there. And so maybe they're like, oh God, you're dating so-and-so's kid? Are you serious? I mean, you know. So, but yeah, they may find that your future spouse is a show-off, that they're too loud, that they're too talkative, that they come on too strong. They may find that your future spouse is bossy. They may find them jealous or controlling, or just think that they're honestly full of themselves. And again, this is just me focusing on the negative aspects given, you know, their first impression being so wrong. Okay, now let's find out how they will feel about your future spouse as they get to know them. Which even, honestly, your future spouse may really be a Leo, but they are in the positive, you know, side of it. They have a heart of gold. They're very generous. They're very loving, very sweet, very affectionate, right? Very sociable, very charming, charismatic, funny. Like, there's a lot of positive sides to Leo. I don't want to, like, undermine that. Okay. Sagittarius. So your future spouse may actually be a fire sign. So I think over time, they may start to view your future spouse in a way where they see that they are honest. Because with Sagittarius, I really associate that with truth. So in the beginning, they may think that your future spouse is full of it. You know, they're just a charmer. They're just a smooth talker, you know. And then over time, they'll see, oh, wow, like, you know, they, the future spouse here. It gets tedious sometimes saying future spouse over and over again. But anyway, your future spouse. They will start to realize over time that this person actually is a man or woman of their word. You know, this is a person who is honest, is reliable, does mean what they say, someone who is really loyal. I mean, you see loyal repeated here twice. So it's like your future spouse is demonstrating some of these qualities, but it's like your parents don't believe it, you know? And yeah, and I think over time as well, with Sagittarius energy, they will see your future spouse as someone who is on the rise, you know? Because again, Sagittarius can talk about movement, can talk about travel, and then you have the Chariot here also talking about success and movement and travel. So I think over and over again, like, there's a message coming through that your future spouse is going places. Like, even if they're successful right now, it's like they haven't even reached the pinnacle of success yet. Like, they haven't, even if they're successful, they haven't fully reached their true potential, you know? This is someone who is really ambitious, and someone who's very passionate, and someone who's very driven. And, you know, I see those qualities in both of these signs. So I definitely think that your future spouse is someone to watch out for. You know what I mean? Like, they really are someone who has big dreams, big goals, and the willpower and the passion and the drive to see those goals through. And, you know, it's unfortunate that your parents don't recognize that. And again, it may have very little to do with your future spouse. It may have more to do with your dating history, you know, or even just your relationship with your parents isn't that great. And it may even be also that your parents have a very different idea of who you should be with, the path that you should follow, and it doesn't really click with what you're wanting in life, you know? So that could also be a message. Because some of you really, you know, may want to travel before you settle down, and I could see that being an issue here if your parents think you should be doing, you know, settling down, saving up to buy your first house, and you and your future spouse want to travel. I could see that creating a problem, right? So there may just be a different view on how you should be getting to that 10 of Cups, you know, what is actually going to make you happy versus what your parents want for you. So yeah, these were your messages. I hope that it resonated. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure you also check out my friendship reading. So I'm going to do a video on how your friends will view your future spouse. I don't know if that video is going to come out first or second, but make sure you check it out. Yeah, I hope that this resonated. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell and you will always know when I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. A huge thank you to everyone who's been commenting on my videos, watching them regularly. If you've donated on Venmo or with SuperThanks, like the virtual tip jar, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next one.